All right, so first in our lineup is Neil Dankert, who will be sharing on the Nebraska Lepidoptera website and presenting a special award to a local youth scientist. Neil's interest in Lepidoptera began under the guidance of his college advisor, Dr. Harold Nagel, during trips to the newly acquired Niobrara Valley Preserve in the early 1980s. About that time, he also became Nebraska State Coordinator for the Lepidopterist Society, where his job included gathering data to add to the accumulated knowledge of Nebraska Lepidoptera dating back to the late 1800s. Upon retirement in 2022, Neil undertook a Nebraska butterfly big year, where he tallied 102 butterfly species and teamed up with Jonathan Nicola to start the Nebraska Lepidoptera website. Welcome, Neil. Lots of big words in there. All right, so we've got the microphone here.
Okay.
And then just go through. There's no presentation view, so it's just your slides up there.
Okay.
Is that good? Okay.
This is advanced.
I believe so, yeah. Not going?
Or not.
Probably just use the
Okay.
space bar too, that works.
Right. Okay. Like she mentioned, I did a big year. Has anybody heard of big years? Yeah. Birders in the crowd. So nobody had ever done a Nebraska butterfly big year, so I was like, no matter what I get, I'll have the record. So if I'd have got 5, it would have been the record. So anyway, we went clear from Indian Cave State Park to mile marker 1 at the western end of the state, which Jonathan's also a birder. He tells me that's a good birding spot as well. So they're good biodiversity habitats. What's good for birds is generally good for butterflies. So I was going to do the big year, and he told me, oh, if you do that, you have to have a blog. And I'm like, don't want to do a blog, but he set one up, and that's how the whole thing started. And then several years later, Game and Parks, through Watchable Wildlife, gave us some money to build it out. And so we listed all 212 butterfly species found in the state. And for each species, I just selected the banded hair streaks. We did their status, their Nebraska Natural Heritage Program rank, the range, the larval host plants, the flight time, how they overwinter, their habitats, the size, and where in Nebraska, the public areas where it's been found, so you know where to go and when to go look for it. And then similar species and notes. So for all 212 butterflies in the state, there's a page that gives you all that information. So if you're looking for the host plant, that'd be a whole different project if we went host plants and everything that fed on it. But I'll pitch that to John. We'll see what he says. And the following year, Steve Spomer had from UNL had been keeping records on underwing, sphinx moths, and saturnid moths. And so we added those 3 groups to the website. And there's a drawer of underwing moths and sphinx moths out on the table out there. Silkworm moths are not pollinators because adults don't feed, so this is a pollinator presentation, but I left the silkworms at home. But we added those to the website. Underwings, you can look at them. They all look the same. And whenever I get a picture of one or a specimen, I send it to Steve, and if he doesn't know, he sends it on to a guy at the Peabody Museum at Yale, I think it is. And so we're getting the word down, handed down from God on what this is. So they've all been vetted, so I think all the pictures are correct there. And we put a downloadable spreadsheet on the website, And it has, I believe we're up to 1,602 different species. And that was built on the first guy to make a moth list was Dick Roche back in 1989, and he only listed less than 500 species. So we more than tripled the amount of species in that many years. And all these records, we got a spreadsheet from the University of Nebraska that listed all their moth species. So we added those moth species to the list, and then a lot of citizen science went into it. Started to become a big thing with iNaturalist and Moth Photographers Group and Bug Guide. They all have screening mechanisms where you can search for state species, and all that was done by citizen scientists. And the citizen scientists come from all walks of life. A lot of us are older retired people, but they range all the way down to Elizabeth, who was 12 years old. And earlier in the past 2 years, she has found 3 new moth species for the state. The first one was a yellow-lined owlet, and the map is from Moth Photographers Group, which is pretty handy. And it doesn't have the Nebraska record on there. Each one of these websites has their own database, and unless you send something to that database, your record doesn't show up there. So they don't have it. I don't know if Bug Guide has it, but iNaturalist has it. So everybody keeps a different database, and we try to pull in from all 3, but that gives you a general distribution or idea of the distribution of that moth. And the caterpillars are known to feed on willows. And there's part of the spreadsheet, and highlighted one there is the yellow-lined owlet, which Elizabeth found. And going on to, there's a link to the Moth Photographers Group, which is where I got that map. And then, when possible, if I could find it, I put a picture of the Nebraska specimen on there. And so that's where Elizabeth posted. It's on iNaturalist, the county it was found, and the date they found it. And there's Elizabeth's initials. And if you look on there, you see a lot of BLPs, which is Barbara and Lauren Paddleford from here in Bellevue. Are they here? But if they were, they should stand up and get a round of applause, because they've been doing this for 40-some years. There's University of Nebraska State Museum, Colin Croft CDC out in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. And so I've even got one down there, but from Brown County. But so I try and give a little recognition and where it's found on the Moth Photographers Group, and a picture of the actual Nebraska moth. Another one of her new finds for the state is Cydia leucostrina, which has no common name, and see how few records there are. And this is a smaller moth, probably not as big as your fingernail, but the smaller they get, the fewer records and the harder to identify. So kudos to anyone who spends the time and goes and finds out what these moths are. And the last one is called a javelin moth, and there's the distribution of that moth. And so you can see Nebraska kind of fills in the gap on that. And that one is reported to feed on sedges and rushes, so more found in a wetland area. So at this point, we'll bring up Elizabeth.
Kathy is grabbing the certificate.
I sped through it too fast.
I was a little forgetful. So this is Elizabeth Hilkemann. I've got her bio here. Congratulations. So I'll read this. I don't know if you can hear me. Elizabeth is a 12-year-old Lepidoptera enthusiast from Firth, Nebraska. I can't talk. She began learning the names of butterfly species on the flowers in her yard just when she was 3 years old. In 23, she was invited to the state capitol to read her poem, Chasing Butterflies on the Nebraska Prairie. She has currently photographed over 250 species of moths at her home, which includes 3 new moth species that Neil just showed us. I'm not going to say all the names. She also photographed a new moth species for Cass County, the joined underwing, and she's waiting to learn on 2 more moths that also will probably be state records. For the 2nd year in a row, she has been both the champion in the tree identification contest at the Nebraska State Fair and the champion in the 4-H weed and grass identification contest in Lancaster County. Thinking, you need to come to my house and ID some of my weeds. Her research project on predicting the number of moths at a light won a Premier Science Award at the 2025 Nebraska State Fair. I saw, Neil sent me that, and it's like very impressive with graphs and charts, and I haven't had the chance to read it, but it's just very, very cool. And Elizabeth has some other hobbies, including 4-H, reading, showing rabbits, playing with her cats and dog, and playing guitar. And we at Pollinator Alliance of the Heartland wish to recognize Elizabeth on her achievements and enthusiasm for moths and butterflies. This type of activity helps others realize the importance of these winged wonders. They're just not worms that eat our plants. They're here for a reason. They're all part of the natural cycle. So she has inspired me to take a closer look at moths in my own yard. I found a caterpillar of the unexpected Signia moth, and so that was pretty cool. And I guess that only eats milkweed too, like our monarchs. We encourage you, Elizabeth, to keep on the hunt now and for the rest of your life. Congratulations on all your accomplishments. And because I'm not organized, we have a little plaque for you. And an official t-shirt. I have a t-shirt. And let's see. Oh, I even had we've got our little pins. Now, this is only for staff. These are only, so not everybody gets one of those. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Kathy. Congratulations, Elizabeth. We're really excited to see some of this young blood get really interested in our natural environment and keep working. We all appreciate and recognize your efforts.
But I forgot. If we have time, okay. I wanted to, and if it's okay with you, to read your poem. This was from when she was in grade 4, Chasing Butterflies on the Nebraska Prairie. I'm not a poet, so hopefully I don't slaughter this. Eager, energized, and excited, pat, pat, pat. Swish, swish, swish. Running through the tall brome, grass, milkweed, goldenrod. Wild daisies like small citrine suns. A butterfly net like a cirrus cloud in my small hands. Bright orange and onyx patterns, mocking monarchs diving in my hand face, then soaring toward space like rockets. Little blue-gray and carefree, effortless to capture, eastern-tailed blues kissing the emerald clover at my feet. Black and orange with a splash of white paint, silver-spotted skippers dancing on knee-high amethyst salvia, soaring away when I come near, but then surprisingly come back. Look, a butterfly. I ambush it before it flies into the sapphire sky. My tired legs leap like happy grasshoppers, thrilled, overjoyed, and delighted. Pat, 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 swish, swish, swish.
Absolutely wonderful, multi-talented. Great. I definitely can't beat that. So this concludes our first portion of our presentations. Neil will have a table out front, but if you're willing to entertain some questions, you're welcome to stick around. And Elizabeth, we're hoping that you'll stick around a little bit more for the Milkweed and Cookies event too. Maybe sign some autographs, I don't know. But yeah, we have a great lineup, so feel free to stick around for a little bit of a Q&A. Otherwise, I know a lot of folks are eager to get their plants and check out some of the vendors, so at this time, I release you if you're interested. So there is a question in the back.
I don't know the answer to that. There's a governing committee for scientific names, but to my knowledge, common names are, like a lot of people call hawks chicken hawks, and, common names vary. So to my knowledge, there's no governing authority on common names. So yeah, yeah. I'll put that on there, Elizabeth, whatever Moss. So
Yeah, start the trend. Love it. Great. Anything else? All right. Thank you, everyone.